Alright, so let's expect these elements real quick. And we can take a look at where they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. So now we go on to our next step, which what we want to do is place them. So this first one, let's start off. Let's go into our main. We know we have 6, so let's just add a 6th one. And remember, none of our P tags actually have these IDs attached to them, so we have to make sure we add these IDs. Now, because I know we're going to animate this from off the screen, I definitely want to set the position to absolute. And we're going to start with the top. I like to start with top at 0, actually 1 pixel, I lie. I like to start the top and left at 1 pixel. And the reason for that is now this is one of the most laziest things you can ever do, but it is one hell of a time saver. All right, so we set them all up at 1, 1. We come back in here, we drop in our IDs for each one of them, and then we're going to go into, I like to use Chrome personally. I just find it a lot easier and a little more flexible to use than Firefox, but definitely for debugging, Chrome and Firefox are the only ones I'll ever use. IE is absolutely last on the list of importance. You'll notice that my IDE keeps changing the IDs to red. It's just to notify me that I have multiple IDs with the same name or the same value, and you really don't want that. If you need anything that needs to be repeated, it's classes that you want to use and not the IDs. All right, so let's save that out, hit play, and notice everything's up in the top left-hand corner. That's absolutely fine. One thing I'll actually want to do, this ID of page, I'm going to want to change this and make this relative. Make sure I don't have this up here already. Nope. Position relative. Save that. Come back. And now you see it's fixed. So what happened here? Now I learned this trick from what I would call the absolute HTML5 guru. And my man Ray, I sat under him for probably like 3 or 4 months and learned some of the nitty gritties of HTML right before HTML5 really started taking off. And one of the things I learned from him was relative. When to use relative and absolute. Now in this case, we definitely want to use relative. And what's happening is that we actually have our container is relative, which means it's relative to the browser. And what we were seeing before was when I set all of these elements to absolute, it was absolute to the browser and not to the container. So now that I set the container to be relative, let me actually show you this. So now that this container is relative, anything in here that's set to absolute, its 0 point is going to be in this container. So that just gives us a lot more control and flexibility. And we're not having, an element inside of this div technically be outside of the div in the view and out in this area. So that's all that did. And definitely, you really don't want to play with relative because it does change some things out. But this is absolutely the perfect way and perfect time to use relative, is when you need something inside of the relative to be absolute. All right, so now our little trick, grab this P tag. Remember which one it is. That's cool. All right, so we grab the first alien and we come here and we just keep hitting up. So it's a much faster way than trying to guess where you need to place it. You can definitely be a lot more accurate. So just keep going back until I'm just gonna nudge this over a little bit. 110. All right, we're not gonna line that up. So 110, I'll say 110 by 160. Make sure pixels at the end. Now, there is a way to save that data and have it automatically show up in here. Now, I'll show that in another video, but PHP Storm has a lot of great built-in features that developers have been able to exploit and create plugins for. So come back here, top is 110 by 160. 110 by 160. All right, so now we go on to the next one, and we do the same thing. I'm holding down Shift just to make us jump. 271 probably. Actually 270. Now it does not have to round to the nearest. I just prefer to have that right now. 339. So I'm just going to keep going out and making this change to all of them. So 260, 339. And you just keep going down the line and keep setting this up. Now, of course, this is not visible, but it's all right. We can just eye it from here. Bring that down. Left. Now they don't have to match up, at least for us, for our purposes, it does not need to match up the design 100%. 347. Make sure we get this right, but you definitely want to be as close as possible. I know most clients want these things down to literally 2 pixels, which is a great opportunity to use this tool or to use this technique, because if you really need to make everything absolutely pixel perfect, look, there's no better way to do it than to use this way. Because otherwise you're going to be stuck, you know, putting a value in, hitting save, copy, save, copy, save, copy, save. It's super annoying, you know, especially if you're moving 1 or 2 pixels at a time. So this is absolutely the best way to go if you're going to have to do it. Video.js, title, and same thing as these, position, absolute. We're going to 0, 0. Come back into our index file. And once again, this is the benefit that texturepacker provides. Minus knowing the file name / the class name, you don't need to care about anything else. You just need to go in there, and I remember the days of having to type in everything and go back into Photoshop and use rulers and try to match everything to make sure that it fits in, you know, into somewhat of a grid, and then go back and forth and kind of move the width, the height, the top padding. It was a pain. I think our sprite is images, video title JS. Let's go back in here. All right, perfect. So same thing as we did before. Just grab this, grab its top. Now the reason why I set this value to 0 instead of 0 pixels is this will, nasty. You never want to do that unless you absolutely have to do that. What I'm going to do instead is because what that means is we're not butting up against the top, which is fine. We really don't need this butting up against the top, but you don't want to get into a habit of having negative values. Sometimes the best way to go with that is to have your padding and margin set to 0. So we know 0 is going to be, actually, I don't want it to be, we'll leave it for now, but I'm definitely going to fix that when we get later on into the video. So let's close some of this out. Oh, great. And copy over 115 pixels. All right, now we're complete. So what do we cover? We covered our texture packer, definitely new feature using the folders, and how our folder name now becomes appended to our file name, and that's how we get our class names. We talked about this auto SD feature and this and how you can use its scale feature to cut down the size or increase it. If you know anything about design, don't ever go large. Always go small. Hence why you start off larger. Now this preset's already in here, but in our case this works fine. We spoke about how to set up our images using texturepacker with, of course, our sprite class plus the actual class name in the texturepacker file. And then this cool, neat little trick where we can just come in here and actually change the values. And this makes, I'm telling you, hands down, the fastest way to set up pixel by pixel designs. If you ever have a client that wants it, or if you just want to be able to say, hey, look, let me tell you something. Between me and the next guy, I can definitely get this thing pixel perfect. And how can you do that? Just by coming in here and using the debug tools and getting this as close as possible. 2 or 3 pixels is definitely a great up for the client. And of course, they don't come back to you and tell you that the design doesn't look like their design. Trust me, it's happened, and it happens. More often than not, they're very picky, especially when you're dealing with designers who are running the squad. So in our next video, we're going to go in a little more detail and go down for the kill shot, our bottom row, and show you how you can create that. And there's a number of ways we can do that. Don't know which one we're going to use just yet, but until then, I'm Edithson Abelard. Check me out. Passion 47 is our squad. You'll definitely find this in our blog section. I'll have the video and the source code in there. And check out the next video. Edithson Abelard. I'm out.